So today I wanted to try and do something a little different from what I normally do. I'm sorry for those who might want to see more games or specifically 9 Souls, which this time slot would be reserved for. But I wanted to try branching out into a different form of content, test the waters and see what people think. So today we're going to be watching The Internet's Darkest Corners 6 by one Nick Crowley. So go support Nick Crowley. Link to the original video will be in the description. Go give it a like, subscribe to him. He made this, I can't say amazing video, I haven't watched it yet, but I have watched 1 or 2 of his other videos. I think it was YouTube's Darkest Videos or something like that. So absolutely go check him out. Great creator. But I wanted to watch this, and let's just get right into it.
Fifth alarm. Working structure fire. 7741 Liberty Road Drive.
It's 9 a.m. on May 18th, 2024. Residents of Charlotte, North Carolina wake up to the smell and sight of black smoke billowing up into the sky. The source?
Is it a fire?
A massive 7-story apartment complex, home to 239 luxury units. Or at least what should have been luxury units. At the time, the structure was still—
No, don't. Okay, already, this is a bad sign. Please don't tell me this is going to be a story of, I don't know how to put it correctly, but city architectural planners planning out a building supposed to be a luxury apartment complex that turns out it was made like shit and the entire thing caught on fire. Because if so, I'm going to be very mad. I already fucking hate the way buildings are made, because so much of the time they're just thrown together with the cheapest materials and so many corners are cut purely because the developers want to save a little bit of money.
Foreshadowing is a narrative device.
Because it's not about making fucking homes, it's about making money off the homes that are sold. So
under construction, meaning that thankfully no residents were living there. But this in and of itself presented 2 major problems. The first was that, in its current state, the top 5 floors were primarily just the bones of the structure, made almost entirely of wood and insulation, making the building as a whole extremely flammable. Meaning that, although the fire had started out relatively small, it was quickly going to consume the entire complex if it was—
Wow, so it's fucking— okay, I'm gonna try and not pause the video so much, but I don't want to speak over him. So I was fucking right, it did catch on fire because they were too fucking lazy to do it right. God damn it!
Wasn't put out quickly. Which brings us to the second and even more glaring problem. The building was actively under construction when the fire started, and that morning 17 construction workers had clocked in, all of whom were now in grave danger. And by the time the firefighters arrived on the scene—
What the fuck did they do to be able to cause a fire like this?
the situation was already dire. And so firefighters rushed in, finding a large group of the employees and leading them out to safety. Though when they made it outside, they made the horrifying realization that they had only found 15 of them.
Oh,
Somewhere
no.
within that
Some
labyrinth of burning wooden walls, 2 men were left behind, trapped and calling out to anyone who might hear them. And these pleas weren't just being made to those on the scene, as in the following minutes, one of the trapped men, 30-year-old demonte Sherrill, would take out his phone, open up Facebook, and go live, revealing the horrifying reality that both he and his friend had found themselves in.
Somebody said, hell, we're in South Park.
What a terrifying thing to see on Facebook, just one day randomly. Okay, that is one of the reasons I wanted to watch specifically this video, because
Here's how to get the most out of it.
that other video of Nick Crowley's I watched, he is a phenomenal storyteller, and already it goes to show with a simple introductory hook getting me gripped already, because I want to know what this is about. God damn it. That is horrifying though. demonte Sherrill livestream.
Yo. I'm in South Park
I mean,
right
what
now.
else would he do?
At work. The building on fire. And I can't get out.
The stream showed demonte Sherrill and his friend Reuben Holmes somewhere deep within the prospective apartment complex. And though the fire hadn't yet reached them, the smoke certainly had, blanketing—
Yeah, at least my guy here has a rag to be able to cover his nose and mouth so he's not inhaling too much of the toxins in the air.
them in a thick,
What a
impenetrable
shitty
fog,
place.
not only making breathing extremely difficult, but also making it nearly impossible for rescuers to see them.
It's getting harder and harder for them to see.
Oh,
We're gonna have to stand there right see.
I was about to make a joke that could be taken very much the wrong way, but I'll leave it up to your imaginations. Ah, there's not even anywhere to walk.
This was likely one of the reasons why demonte chose to start this livestream, hopeful that it could show rescuers exactly where they were. But based on the footage, their positioning was far from ideal. They were on the second highest floor, floor 6, which had only one access point, a single stairway that was on the complete opposite side of the building.
That was already
and
on
based
fire,
on their
wasn't it?
testimony in the footage, something had clearly blocked their path to that one remaining exit, meaning that the only other way out would be to jump. Though at 6 stories in the air, and falling into what would likely be the heart of the fire, this would have meant certain death. There was quite literally nowhere for them to go. Rescue was their only hope.
God. Okay, for any of you that were in, for any viewers, anyone who might be watching this, was this, because this is clearly in the US, was anyone watching this, did anyone see this live stream, or was this like national news coverage or even local news coverage? Because this is insane. I imagine this absolutely blew up. So for any of you who may be in the US, please let me know in the comments if this is something that had any sort of coverage, because it would be absolutely insane to me if they didn't cover it at all. Because I can, on one hand, I can see why they wouldn't cover it, because it's a show of incompetence by the original building planner and developers to not build the building properly in a way that people can escape safely in case of a fire. But it also shows that the building was incredibly dangerous to build in the first place. And with the way, I'm not going to get into anything too specific, I'm just going to say this is a blanket statement, do not take this the wrong way, but with the way the world is, it would not surprise me if someone were to have paid someone to keep this hush, so it was maybe local news for the area. But at the very least, it would have been massive online, right? I wouldn't know if it was, even if it was international somehow. One, because I don't fucking use Facebook. I'm not a boomer. But I also just don't really use social media. I watch YouTube, but I mostly stick to my specific niches, small video essays about random bullshit and gaming. So, for those of you who may have heard about this, please let me know in the comments what this was like if you were there while it was unfolding, because I'm genuinely really curious.
Yo, this building is on fire. I'm at work. Somebody send help. We're in South Park.
Seemingly realizing this, demonte began to grow more desperate, yelling out into the void of smoke, while Ruben can be seen in the background waving his phone flashlight, with both men doing anything they could to help rescuers find them. Before...
Did they die? Please don't tell me they died. Ah, he ended
the stream
live stream.
abruptly ends.
God.
Rescuers were aware of the unfolding situation on the 6th story. They first tried to reach the men by using a massive crane with a basket attached, which can actually be seen in demonte's livestream. Though in it, you can see that it's also facing the complete wrong direction, as the smoke was just that impenetrable. However, at one point, it's believed that the crane operator did actually see these men, but the blaze was just too extreme, leading to the operator himself having to be rescued. This left only one real option for saving demonte and Ruben. They were going to have to go in after them. And so they climbed that stairway up to floor 6 and started their trek to the opposite end of the structure. Though before they could even make it halfway, the rescuers were relegated to a slow crawl, as the inferno around them raged more and more intensely, and the smoke grew thicker and thicker. Though that's when they began to hear screaming. Somewhere lost in that maze, Ruben and demonte were yelling as loud as they could for help. This sound was a sign that they were getting close. Though just then, rescuers would be met with another sound.
Is it a
All
warning?
companies working 7741 Liberty Road Drive, evacuate structure per command.
Evacuate.
All companies working 7741 Liberty Road Drive, evacuate structure.
Command all companies, this will be defensive at this time. We'll be ready for this side to collapse.
Oh,
Everybody get out of the
no.
collapse zone. Confirming you are coming out, but you're not out of the building.
Oh, no.
With the order being
So they were ordered to collapse. They were ordered to get out because the building was going to collapse shortly before they even found them. I imagine by that time they were running out of air and close to passing out with all the screaming they were doing. And with the air, if the firefighters were told to evacuate, that means the area that's probably about to collapse was where these boys were. Oh, it's fucking terrible.
made for all of them to evacuate, as by this point, the structure was engulfed in flames, and a collapse was imminent.
Oh,
The firefighters tried to call out to the two in one last attempt to guide them towards rescue, but they never came. In fact, at that point, the structure fell eerily silent. They would leave that structure without demonte or Ruben, and minutes later, the fire consumed the entire building, with the temperature inside reaching 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit.
oh.
Before
And the entire thing caved in.
It
didn't
collapsed.
it would eventually topple to the ground. And inside, demonte and Ruben would become the sole fatalities of this catastrophe.
Oh, that's horrifying.
Yo, I'm at South Park right now,
I can't
At work,
imagine how
the
scared
building
these
on
guys must
fire.
have been in their final moments.
and I can't get out.
What's the most spine-chilling about it to me is the fact that he said specifically it fell eerily silent. Tells me that either they gave up and consigned to their fate, or they had passed out from smoke inhalation because they were getting no oxygen to their lungs, which is equally as horrifying, but I guess kind of better because it means if they were cooked alive, they probably weren't conscious for it. Honestly, if anything, I hope that's the way it happened, because then it would mean
Knowing
that
how the story ends would make this live stream difficult
wasn't
for
as
anyone to watch.
painful.
But what I find most upsetting about it is that the majority of those who initially watched this were his own friends and family that followed
Oh,
him on
God, I didn't even
Facebook,
think
with these
of that.
viewers including his own mother. And a lot of them probably had no idea he even worked this job, as he had just been hired that week. His brother had also
What?
caught the stream as it was happening, and actually rushed over to the scene where he pleaded with the firefighters to watch the footage.
This man screamed for help on live.
But despite doing the best they could, there was just too much working against them to save demonte and Ruben.
oh my God, I would be absolutely fucking fuming if I saw that. The fact that his own family saw it. God, I've paused like every minute. I'm really sorry. I have so much to say. This really pisses me off. The fact that his own family were the ones that were watching it, and then they rushed to the scene and were pleading, showing them what was going on, and they did nothing and took their sweet fucking time, really irks me. Oh my God. I thought the whole point of a firefighter was to preserve human life. I guess that's EMTs, not really firefighters. Their job is to contain fires.
Following an investigation into the
Get my
fire,
point.
it was discovered that the crew was using an organic foam insulation, which was known to be extremely flammable and produce thick.
Fuck! I knew. What did I say? What did I say when I started this? I knew they cut corners and used God damn it!
Black smoke, and this became deadly when the machine used to spray that insulation caught fire, sending the whole building up in flames, where they had
how
yet to
does a
install
machine-
any sort of smoke detector or alarm system to alert the crew of a fire. Making matters worse, there had been a temporary set of stairs made right where the two men had
But
been
it collapsed,
trapped,
didn't it?
But that stairwell had just been removed in order to make way for the permanent set of stairs.
Oh my
Because of this and a
fucking
myriad
God.
of other issues, the companies involved with this construction were forced to pay a fine of $50,000 and are currently being sued by the families of both victims.
Good.
But regardless of the outcome, nothing will ever make up for the loss of demonte Sherrill and Ruben Holmes.
No, what a waste of life. And keep in mind, even if they do win that lawsuit, they will get peanuts for any sort of reimbursement. Those sorts of companies will give you as little as possible, either a settlement out of court or a settlement in court that's like maybe $100,000, but knowing how that sort of system works, it'd probably be like $83,000 for each family. Like, oh my fuck, it pisses me off. That one made me mad.
Things were getting
anything.
concerning. Johnny Cashman spoke to his family nearly every single day, but now, on the 6th day without receiving any communication from him, they knew that something was wrong. Johnny lived in Lynchburg, Virginia, hundreds of miles away from his home in Maine, and so, being unable to check on him themselves, they called police in the area and requested a welfare check. Police entered Johnny's apartment on the 19th of April, 2022, and hours later, they would call his parents with the news that they had found their son dead on the floor.
Oh.
According to the officers, Johnny had experienced some sort of medical event that led to GI bleeding that ultimately claimed his life. But this made no sense to Johnny's family.
Hold on.
He was only 38.
Oh, I need to Google what a GI bleed is. Okay, so a GI bleed is a gastrointestinal bleed. So essentially, from mouth to stomach, or mouth to anus, technically, somewhere in that tract, there was a bleed that caused his unfortunate demise.
8 years old, and had just been given a clean bill of health after a full medical exam only 4 months prior. It was so out of the blue, in fact, that they even asked if there were any signs of a struggle, or if there was any evidence that he may have taken his own life. But they were assured that there was no trauma, no drugs, and nothing suspicious found on the scene, and that, as shocking as it was, his cause of death was entirely natural, and had likely just been spurred on by drinking and tobacco use, with the only solace being that Johnny didn't suffer, as they stated that he had died instantly. Because of this, no autopsy was performed, as the case seemed as straightforward as it gets. And despite his family questioning if they should get their own autopsy, they were told by officers that it wouldn't be necessary. And so, Johnny's body was cremated and sent back to Maine, in what seemed to be the end of Johnny Cashman's story.
That doesn't make any sense. Wait, so he died naturally from a GI bleed, but it was instant? Wouldn't that cause like a large amount of pain even for a short period of time, like 10 minutes? I find it hard to believe that killed him instantly.
10 days after Johnny's body was discovered, his ex-girlfriend and her mother made their way back to his apartment in order to retrieve some of her belongings. She knew that re-entering the space was going to be difficult, but ultimately there was no way she could have prepared for what was waiting for her inside. There was blood everywhere. It was pooled in the bathrooms, wiped on doors, spread all over the living space, and was even found on a chair and a banister. But the most horrifying part of it all was the walls. They were covered in splattered blood, which revealed long streaking handprints. It was something straight out of a horror movie, and although Johnny's cause of death was deemed natural, what they found in that apartment seemed anything but. Traumatized by what they were witnessing, the pair snapped multiple photos of the bloodshed and ran out of the unit, directly into Johnny's neighbor. This neighbor...
Yeah, completely understandably. So, I wonder if he was attacked then.
Foreshadowing as a narrative device.
I wonder if he was attacked and then... Or maybe even the GI bleed, he was vomiting up blood. That would explain... Jesus Christ, that's
revealed
horrifying.
that they believed something far worse than a medical emergency had happened to Johnny, as they had a security camera mounted to their door which faced Johnny's unit, and on the day of his passing, it captured something incredibly disturbing.
3:03 p.m. date of death.
The footage shows Johnny making his way up the flight of stairs leading to his apartment at around 3:03 p.m.
Kind of looks like he was swaying a bit.
Nothing seems out of the ordinary at all, though it is noteworthy that he was holding an empty glass, perhaps insinuating that he had been drinking.
That would
but this
make
doesn't
sense.
seem to impair his movements much at all.
I don't know. I would disagree with that. Look at the way he moves up. He goes right and then goes back to the left.
Glass, perhaps
He's sort of stumbling up those stairs.
But this doesn't seem to impair his movements much at all, as he punches in the code and enters his home, just as he did every other day. But moments later, something happens inside that unit, and while it goes unseen, it doesn't go
I hate
unheard.
this sort of shit. 1 minute after entry.
What the fuck? What are you doing? Yo, what the fuck, dude?
Oh, he was absolutely attacked.
What are you doing, man?
And there's no more thumping, and he was definitely on the ground by then. Yeesh.
The audio seems to depict a man yelling, asking repeatedly, "What are you doing?" and begging for something to stop. On top of this, you can also hear loud thuds and banging.
There was definitely a struggle.
Almost as if things were falling over inside, or there was some sort of physical altercation, before the unit then goes quiet just a few seconds later. It was unclear if this voice was Johnny's, or perhaps someone else who had been inside the unit, but regardless, one thing was apparent from this audio. There was someone else in that apartment, despite the fact that Johnny lived alone. And just 7 minutes later, this unseen person would emerge.
Oh, no fucking way. Murderer on footage.
This clearly wasn't Johnny, and after leaving the unit, the anonymous man nearly makes it out of the building before he seems to change his mind.
Is he playing with his hands, or is he... No, I think he was playing with his jacket.
Turning around and walking back up the stairs before fiddling with the door handle, touching it only with his sleeve, like he was wiping off his fingerprints.
And he cleaned it. He cleaned up his hands. He looks pristine. He took some time to clean himself up.
He then walks down the stairs and stops once again, where he seems to be in a state of shock over whatever had just transpired, before he composes himself and walks out of the building.
What the fuck?
But the footage wasn't quite finished yet.
There's more? Does he come back? Oh no. Oh.
Just 1 minute later, you can hear Johnny shouting for help from inside the apartment.
Horrifying to hear. The fact he was... I've played and watched so much horror. I can absolutely see... I can imagine the scene vividly. I'm not going to go into detail about what I'm picturing, but if it is what I'm thinking, it's a single wound somewhere in the abdomen, and he's just bleeding profusely to keep it as mild as I can, which means he's going to be alive and in a lot of pain for not an instant death. So that begs the question, why would the police and the, what's it called? The autopsy doctor, I don't know what they're called. Why would they lie to the family? Was it because they're out of state or not where he is, so they can't readily access his abode? So they lied to make them not stress? Maybe not freak out? Why would they lie to the family? That's so weird.
To which moments after, he stops, and no further sound or activity would come from Johnny's unit until police arrived 5 days later.
5 days!
The footage and the scene at the apartment seemed to contradict what Johnny's family had been told about his death.
Imagine the smell.
The blood all over made it obvious that Johnny's death had not happened in an instant. And this, coupled by the presence of this unknown man who was clearly distraught and wiping off his fingerprints, as well as the sound of the apparent struggle inside, seemed to point towards something much more sinister than what was initially conveyed to the family.
It's chilling.
But even with this footage, police still believed that Johnny's death was due to a medical emergency, as they quickly changed their initial story, saying that the blood spread was due to uncontrollable vomiting, and that Johnny had in fact likely suffered, at least for a short while. But this medical emergency wasn't elaborated on, as they didn't truly know what caused it, as no autopsy was ever performed, nor could one ever be performed, as by this point, Johnny was already cremated, and cremated because of the officer's initial statements. So if Johnny had actually been murdered, which the footage does seem to suggest, there was now virtually no way to prove it. And what makes this even more frustrating is that law enforcement already had this footage. It was collected that very day, and they either didn't fully look through it or didn't think that this was overly suspicious. But everyone else surely did. And soon, this video began making the rounds online, leading to one glaring question being asked.
Who is this man? Please tell me 4chan went and found this man. I know I don't like 4chan. I don't like Reddit. Well, I don't like Reddit beyond some very small niches. Like, some of the memes are pretty funny and there's some pretty good help out there. But for the most part, I hate Reddit and I hate 4chan, but I know the absolute autism that is 4chan. Please tell me they found this man and got him arrested. Fuck this. How does this happen? How? What? Were the police just incompetent? How the fuck did this happen? These are making me angry more than sad or scared. Well, for the most part. But that footage, that audio is chilling to me. Because to me, there's nothing more terrifying than real, like, crime. This sort of shit is horrifying to me. The most scary horror there is stuff that can be replicated in real life. Or even some, like, psychological stuff that can be replicated in real life. That sort of shit is chilling to me. It's like Halloween is really good. Or there's a movie that I really like called Hush. It's a really good horror movie because it's real and it's raw. But I'll shut up about that now and continue the video.
Who is this man? As no one in Johnny's life recognized him. Well, it wouldn't be until May 11th that investigators would finally ID him.
They ID'd him.
As Stephen Church. And upon being questioned, he revealed that he had moved to Lynchburg for work, but the opportunity he had lined up fell through shortly after he arrived, leaving him with no money and without a place to stay, which is when he met Johnny, who offered to let him crash on his couch. He supposedly stayed with Johnny for 3 days, and described Johnny as an alcoholic who drank constantly, including on that fateful day. When Johnny arrived home, Stephen claims that he started drunkenly yelling.
Was drunk and decided to kill a guy? That's not a fucking excuse.
At him about paying rent, which led to the two getting into a verbal altercation. But he insisted that this altercation never turned physical, and that he left immediately after, to which he quickly went back to clean his prints because he was afraid that Johnny would try and have him arrested for squatting. And having already racked up 2 felonies in his life, Stephen was paranoid about going back to jail. But when Stephen was leaving, he did mention seeing Johnny hunched over the toilet as if he were going to vomit, but he claims to have left before this so-called medical emergency started. This is the gist of Stephen's account from that day, but the problem is, it doesn't really match up with what we're hearing in the video.
What the fuck? What are you doing? Yo, what the fuck, dude?
From the footage, we can hear everything going on in that unit, but at no point do we hear any sort of an argument, nor do we hear anything about rent, with the phrases lending themselves more to a physical struggle rather than a verbal one. In fact, the whole time it appears that we're only hearing one voice. But there is an exception.
I can't stop?
To my knowledge, it's never been conclusively determined whose voice is who in the recording, and either scenario paints a far different picture of what may have happened inside that room. But regardless, this audio makes it clear that Stephen's story was fabricated at least to some degree, as he also fails to account for the loud banging in the background. And because of this, his version of events is generally rejected, with most people seeming to believe one of 2 main theories.
Johnny died.
The first is that, upon arriving home, Johnny and Stephen had gotten into a physical altercation, resulting in Johnny taking some sort of blow to his abdomen, which in turn triggered or exacerbated this medical emergency. GI bleeds are horrific and can certainly cause the level of bleeding that was found in the apartment. And perhaps seeing all the blood coming from Johnny, Stephen started yelling at him before deciding to run off, fearing that he would be charged for murder. This would explain Stephen's demeanor and actions after leaving the apartment, and why he may have fabricated his story, as he knew or knows that he was directly responsible for Johnny's death. And this blow to the abdomen could have easily been missed by investigators, as the injuries would have been primarily internal. The second theory is that upon arriving home, Johnny naturally experienced a medical emergency leading to this catastrophic GI bleed. Upon seeing this and perhaps being in a state of shock, Stephen yelled at him, demanding to know what was happening and telling him to stop, as perhaps he was moving around the apartment and tracking blood everywhere, which would explain the other voice saying, "I can't stop." I could see how this experience would make no sense to...
Okay, so if this is the story that he was trying to spin, that he was having this incident, vomiting blood everywhere, and he was the one that said, "I can't stop," wouldn't they then show this footage in some form of trial, or even to the family to say, "Hey, can you identify this voice? Do you know if this is your son? Or this is your family member?" Because to me, like, I would be able to tell that is my brother, my father, my whatever. I would be able to tell. It's crisp enough that I can hear, like, tone, inflection, cadence. I'd be able to make out the voice. So wouldn't you be able to tell who is who? Because if the family can then identify, yeah, the one saying, "Stop, what the fuck are you doing," is my son, that would mean that this guy was the antagonist in this. Which, also, the walking in and happening upon a major medical emergency like that, and not calling the fucking cops or the, like, ambulance or something, is stupid. Okay, so let's go with the second story. That he just happened to walk in and find him in the middle of a medical emergency while he vomits up blood everywhere. Why would he not call the cops or call an ambulance, some sort of medical attention, and get him the help he needs? Why would you just run off? That just makes you suspicious. And clearly put in the shit. Like, dude. It's also incredibly convenient that he would just have this major medical emergency causing all this blood to go everywhere and all these very specific patterns. Fun fact, there is actually a science to blood splatters. You can tell, it's a forensic thing, but the way blood splatters appear on walls and floors can help in determining how someone was bleeding. If, say, it's a line with drips, it means that it was likely blood coming from a slash wound, and the slash was in this direction from this spot looking this way. Like, it helps sort of pin down how events played out. But anyway, that's off topic. Walking in on this major medical emergency is incredibly unfucking likely. I do not believe that for a second. The other possibility of them getting into a scuffle, but this motherfucker being the one saying, "Stop, stop," is also unlikely because you can clearly tell he is uninjured. So, I don't buy his story at all.
Stephen, and perhaps just having no idea what was happening, he left and tried to make it look like he was never there, as he was afraid of being blamed for whatever was happening to Johnny. And so he essentially left Johnny there to die, whether knowingly or unknowingly.
Which, by the way, I'm pretty sure is still manslaughter. Leaving and not actively trying to provide any help to someone that's clearly going through a quite possibly deadly medical emergency, I'm pretty sure is manslaughter. I'm not familiar with US, because this is in Maine, in the US. I'm not entirely sure of American laws, but I'm pretty sure that is manslaughter.
Why 911 was
Sorry,
never
not
called,
manslaughter,
not
homicide.
only by Stephen, but
I think. I could be, I'm sorry, I don't remember the exact terms. I'm pretty sure homicide is the accidental cause or the unintentional death of someone, essentially.
But by Johnny too, as his phone was found in the unit with blood on it, implying that he had it in his hand at some point, though it's possible that the massive blood loss just made him too disoriented. Both of these theories seem believable, or at least more so than the explanation
100%.
that Stephen had given. However, in October of 2022, Johnny's case would officially be closed for good, with Stephen being cleared of any wrongdoing, as Johnny's death was labeled the same way that it always has been, a medical emergency that couldn't be further elaborated on, with the most relevant evidence being that Stephen's shoe prints were not found in the blood, but Johnny's were, implying that he had not been part of the struggle. But in my mind, this can be explained by...
What? Because his footprints weren't found in the... He could step around the blood that was coming out of him, for fuck's sake. That is not sufficient evidence. Who the fuck was on this jury? And who is the judge? I want this judge found, and I want him... I'm going to stop there, because I don't want to actually incite a manhunt. But what the... How... He was in the apartment moments before this guy died. And you'd be able to tell as soon as you enter, because you can date blood back to it leaving the body. Because when blood leaves the body, it immediately starts to coagulate. And if you can figure out the how long it's been coagulating for, you can figure out the time and cause of, or you can figure out the time of death. So if there is blood throughout the apartment and it was all coming from the 5 days before the cops showed up, that means that this motherfucker is the one that entered the apartment last, and he was the last person to see Johnny alive, which means it is absolutely, beyond a shadow of a doubt, probably him who killed him.
Both theories mentioned previously. Though regardless, without the possibility of an autopsy, this is likely where this case ends for good. But with this disturbing footage, I can't help but think that there was more to the story.
There absolutely
than we
was.
may
There was
ever
absolutely
know.
some sort of, not embezzlement, fraud, I guess. TikTokers find body, oh god. It's Logan Paul all over again.
It was around 7:30 a.m. on a warm July morning back in 2019. 17-year-olds Bethany Martin and a 16-year-old friend decide to walk to a gas station near their home in San Antonio, Texas. And as the two of them made their way down the road, their path brought them parallel to a drainage ditch, which was often filled with various trash and other discarded material. But on this day, something far more interesting caught their eye. It looked like a man crouching down and leaned up against one of the concrete walls, but the closer they got, the more they realized how unusual his posture was. He looked completely unnatural, and he wasn't moving. And by the time they came face to face with him, the reality of the situation would hit them. They had just found a dead body.
How horrifying.
This discovery was enough to traumatize anyone, especially two teenagers, and upon calling the police and being sent on their way, Bethany and her friend would make the long walk back home contemplating what to do next, before they eventually landed on the idea of sharing their experience with the world. And so, as soon as they got in the door, they began to set up lights and their camera in order to film a TikTok.
There are worse ways. I made the Logan Paul joke, but props to these we haven't gotten to the actual video yet, but so far, props to these ladies for not actually filming the corpse.
Foreshadowing.
And I can completely understand setting up a camera and talking to the camera and your audience to vent about something like this, because that's pretty traumatizing. They look pretty young. So I can absolutely sympathize with them trying to talk about it and maybe get some words of encouragement or some sort of comfort by letting this story out, telling someone just out into the void, and hopefully receiving some comforting words back. So I can absolutely sympathize with that. But let's see what they actually have to say. Well, I seem to have spoken way too soon. Oh god.
The clip showed the two sitting on a couch appearing to be in a state of shock, with the words, "Us remembering we found a dead body this morning," plastered on the screen, offering no other context aside from the description, which simply read,
"I wish we were kidding, all respect to the family." Yeah, I kinda wish I watched the video first, because those words were not... Yeah, no, that's a pretty shit way to announce that, and I'm pretty sure you aren't supposed to do that. What the fuck did I expect from TikTokers? Jesus Christ. I don't know if I've said this on camera before, but I absolutely fucking hate TikTok. I don't... Full disclosure, I did create a TikTok account just to preserve the name should I want to use TikTok at any point for uploading my shorts. And I did upload shorts for a little bit, but it's... Well, my shorts to TikTok, but just as a way to try and reach a new audience and maybe convert some over. But it seems that the conversion of TikTok views to YouTube views is non-existent. So I've kind of just ceased that altogether. But I do not watch TikTok. I do not actively consume any TikTok content, but from everything I fucking see of TikTok, they're the most annoying, self-centered, narcissistic, fucking imbecilic people I've ever fucking seen.
"I wish we were kidding. All respect to the family."
What a
Some
stupid
offered
way
sympathy
to
for the
do
girls,
that.
while others viewed their post as insensitive and exploitative.
Oh, it absolutely
But others
is.
weren't even convinced it was real, partially due to this glaring lack of context. But any doubt of this post's legitimacy would be quickly thwarted by a discovery made not even one full day later, as it was revealed that this recording hadn't actually been the only video that these two girls had made on that fateful
god,
day.
they made like 5 of them.
On their walk to the gas station, the girls had stumbled across the body of 25-year-old Marcus Adams, with the young man having seemingly perished.
I just realized it's not the only recording of them. Did they actually film the body? Oh my fucking god. I spoke way too soon. I'm eating my words.
Earlier that morning, with it being apparent that he had taken his own life. But upon finding Marcus, the girls weren't actually overwhelmed with sadness or even shock,
It's really sad.
as instead
He took his
their
own
focus immediately went to something far different, as something on the man's body had caught their attention.
Content.
His necklace. The girls really liked it. In fact, the unnamed 16-year-old had said that it matched her fashion perfectly.
Did they steal
and so,
it?
before police arrived, the two would once again pull out their phone and start recording, showing Bethany approaching the body with her intention being to grab his necklace. Which she eventually does, removing the medallion and giving it to her friend, before tossing the chain into the grass nearby, leading to the girls running away from the scene. The 16-year-old would then post that video onto her Snapchat story.
What the fuck? What kind of clout-obsessed goblins are being raised today? Who takes something off a dead body just to make a video for your Snapchat, apparently, and then throw the thing that, quote, matches her style in the ground?
For all of her close friends to see. I can't show the footage for obvious reasons, but it's truly awful.
Yeah, absolutely.
And just based on the audio alone, you can tell that they're very obviously having fun doing this.
You gotta do it now. Now or never. Here, hold me. I got it. Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god. Oh my god, oh my god.
Oh my god, that's disgusting. Absolutely zero sympathy for these fucking harpies.
There's something so uniquely disturbing about it. It's clear that upon finding the body, there was no real emotional impact on them, at least none that outweighed their desire to steal from it. And as if stealing from this man who had just taken his own life, and posting it for all their friends to see as if it were a joke, wasn't horrible enough, they then immediately posted this other video to TikTok in an attempt to garner sympathy. It's truly awful, and made even more appalling by reports that claim that the 16-year-old had actually worn this medallion in the TikTok video, and in others made following its posting. And unfortunately, their actions had even more upsetting consequences.
Oh my god.
As the footage from their Snapchat story was quickly downloaded by someone they knew and posted onto an app called Nextdoor, with the footage being totally uncensored. And it was on this app where it's claimed that many of Marcus Adams' own family members would see the footage, many of whom weren't even aware that he was deceased. Just one day after posting this
horrible.
TikTok, both girls were questioned by the police after the incident and the footage was reported to them.
They better be slapped with some heavy fucking charges. I have absolutely zero sympathy for these clout-obsessed little goblins that exist. This sort of shit pisses. For those of you in my audience who may or who may have kids, please, I beg of you, do not give your child a phone or a tablet at all. Consoles, fine. Just make sure they have games that are suitable for their age. Computers, yeah, just make sure you monitor what they're doing. Do not give them a phone or a tablet. Period. Because that shit will lead to stuff like this, where they have zero sympathy or empathy for human life. And it's what creates killers. Okay, so the reason sociopaths and psychopaths are the ones that cause a lot more deaths than many others is because they don't connect with humans the way we do. I say we do as if we all aren't sociopathic or psychopathic in some way and just generalizing. But, okay, broad terms. A sociopath and a psychopath cannot connect with a human the same way someone that isn't a sociopath or psychopath can. They do not have that attachment to life that someone without those conditions would. So they see taking a life as, so what? They would have died anyway. What difference does it make now? If you want to if you want to keep it simple, think of Omni-Man from Invincible. I've recently been watching Omni-Man. It's a really good fucking show if you haven't seen it. But they do not value life because they see it as unimportant. And to some degrees, even their own lives they don't value because they're just willing, it doesn't matter. In the end, their life doesn't matter. That's how they see it. And it is absolutely insane. Sociopaths commit these crimes a lot less than psychopaths. Because psychopaths have complete detachment. Sociopath, it's just the lack of empathy. They can't understand how someone feels. So it's more just acting out poor behavior rather than complete detachment and lack of understanding of human life. There is a difference, but generally those are the types of people that cause these sort of crimes. And I know it's not always the case. There are perfectly normal functioning psychopaths and sociopaths in society. I don't want to demonize them. It is just an unfortunate statistic that these types of people with these conditions, because they are conditions, it is not what you would call neurotypical. It is unfortunate that these people have to deal with these issues, and if they are outed as such, can sometimes be demonized for such behaviors that they can't even control. So if you do know someone that is suffering with, I wouldn't say suffering, but that is dealing with sociopathy or psychopathy, please try and support them, because we don't want to demonize and stigmatize these people. We want them to try and get some help if it's possible. I don't actually know if it's possible to revert or heal psychopathy or sociopathy. So I'm sorry if I'm getting things wrong, but it's better to embrace and try and be caring while being safe, of course, than it is to demonize and segregate. We want to include them, not exclude them. So please spread love and kindness. Do not I have to pick my words very carefully. Do not push them away and do not separate them, because everyone, no matter their race, gender, sexual preferences, or whatever the fuck is in their pants, we are all human. We all deserve love the same way. It is unfortunate that the age of the internet has caused such degenerate harpies to exist. Please spread love and spread kindness. That is the whole reason I created this channel, was to spread love and kindness and positivity out into the world. So please, just be nice. Moving on.
And as a result, Bethany would be charged with theft of a human corpse,
yes,
but would ultimately avoid any serious jail time.
Fuck!
Meanwhile, the 16-year-old's name and charges were never publicly released, but we do know that the medallion was returned to the family.
Good.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, Bethany would later come back to her TikTok page shortly after her arrest and share her side of the story, where she gave a less than half-hearted apology, while also claiming to be the victim, saying that her friend had pressured her to steal from Marcus, as well as pressured her into making that TikTok in the first place, because she thought it would be a hit.
Zero fucking
Though
accountability.
obviously this didn't go over well.
Yeah, psychopath behavior, I saw that in the comments. Zero empathy, not even speaking, just adding captions. Are you serious? If I were to do okay, could you imagine the Logan Paul apology, but with, instead of him actually speaking, he just looked up and had captions and was just doing other shit, just not paying attention? Like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Oh my god, I hate people like that. Anyway, Jonelle Matthews.
On December 20th, 1984, 12-year-old Jonelle Matthews disappeared from her home in Greeley, Colorado in the evening hours. Earlier that day, she had sung at a Christmas concert with her school's choir, which her parents were unable to attend, as her mother was out of town and her father had gone to her sister's basketball game nearby, leading to Jonelle catching a ride home with a friend, being dropped off at her house sometime around 8:15, where she excitedly spoke to her father on the phone, letting him know that she had arrived home safe and sound. Approximately 1 hour later, her father, Jim Matthews, pulled into the driveway to find the garage door wide open, and the house completely empty. Jonelle was gone, leaving behind her winter coat and even her shoes, despite it being a frigid, snowy night. And it was within that snow that was quickly piling up that lie one of the only real clues left behind at the scene.
A boot?
Footprints, leading directly to one of the home's windows, insinuating that someone had been watching Jonelle.
Oh, that's terrifying.
12-year-old Jonelle Matthews disappeared from her Greeley home 1 month ago today. It's believed she's the victim of a kidnapping. She has not been seen or heard from since December 20th.
My body really loves
Her disappearance became a big news story almost immediately, with the whole community and really the whole country becoming invested in the fate of this girl, thanks in large part to her being one of the very first milk carton kids, meaning that her face and information about her disappearance was shown on countless milk cartons all across the country to get the word out. And as a result, this case became huge in the mainstream media, as even politicians began to make note of Jonelle's story, with then-President Ronald Reagan mentioning the girl in one of his speeches.
I learned about Jonelle Matthews of Greeley, Colorado, 5 days before Christmas. Jonelle disappeared from her home.
5 days before Christmas.
But even with this publicity, this didn't necessarily guarantee results, and soon months would turn to years, and eventually to decades. And all the while, Jonelle's whereabouts remained a complete mystery. Eventually, the rise of the internet would start to...
Jesus Christ, that is really sad. 5 days before Christmas, you lose your child. Not even to death, just gone. The amount of... Okay, so arguably... this is a bit of a hot take from me. Arguably, having a child disappear rather than die is more traumatic on a family than having a child die. Because you never get that closure of, oh, so this is what happened, this is how it happened. Granted, both are fucking awful, but I feel like a missing child permanently is more impactful and more devastating than a dead child. Because that closure never happens, you always have in the back of your mind, oh, this happened, and then this could have happened. Oh, was that Jonelle? Did I just hear Jonelle somewhere? Like that sort of stuff. Because it's always in the back of your mind that, what if? What if they're around the corner? What if that was the voice? What if this person took them? Like, it's always in the back of your mind. So Australia, where I'm from, obviously, we had a similar case. I believe his name was William Tyrrell. I don't know if the case has ever been resolved, but it's a case that dates back even from when I was a child, and I've heard about it, I think when I was a child. Point stands. A child called William Tyrrell went missing at his grandmother's house, I believe, and was not seen for, I believe, over a decade. And I'm pretty sure they ended up finding him deceased. I can't remember if they actually did find him deceased. I'm pretty sure they just didn't find him, period. But it was all over the news for a long time, and like once or twice every year for like a week, they'd check in on the William Tyrrell investigation. Nothing had been found. I believe the grandmother was the biggest suspect they had at the time because she was the last one to have seen him. I could have the details wrong. It's been a long time since I've heard about the William Tyrrell case, but if you are interested, I would recommend go looking into that. It is a very interesting case because they never really figured out what happened, and I don't believe anyone was actually charged for his disappearance. But we'll move on. We've got
to play a key
6
role
months
in
left.
this case, where even in the late 2010s, over 3 decades after she had vanished, her case was still being shared and still being discussed, just as it had been 3 decades prior.
Holy shit.
With it still being a point of contention for politicians, even as recently as 2019. When a man running for governor of Idaho mentioned her disappearance in a Facebook post, 35...
There's no such thing as closure. My 20-year-old son, Carl, was murdered on 7/04, so that's April 7th. It's backwards for me. Fucking Americans doing things backwards. So, April 7th, 2008. Losing a child hurts your entire life. I'm fortunate to have truthful facts regarding Carl's murder. The United States Attorney for the District of Colorado needs to actively oversee the investigation into the death and disappearance of Miss Jonelle Matthews, a human being. Since 1984, police have only considered sinister, emotionally charged child abduction possibilities, and they are culpable with resulting vigilantism. Okay, I see what he's saying. So because they didn't pursue it properly, they are culprits of possible vigilantes. The public deserves the uncensored truth, even if it hurts the reputation of local law enforcement. Pray for truth, not revenge.
5 full years later.
It's a good way to say it.
Regardless of Jonelle's whereabouts, her case was still very much alive, as the world, and especially Jonelle's parents, were haunted by the question, what happened to Jonelle Matthews?
She could very
But sure
well be dead
enough,
already.
in late
Natural
2019,
causes.
they would finally get their answer.
Oh?
Was found in Weld County earlier this week appeared to bring an end to a 3-decade-long search for a missing 12-year-old girl. The Greeley Tribune is reporting they are those of Jonelle Matthews.
Oh no.
On Tuesday, July 23rd, 2019, at roughly 4:50 p.m., a crew had been digging in an isolated field in Weld County, Colorado, in order to install a new pipeline, when they would uncover the decayed remains of a little girl. It was Jonelle, still wearing those clothes that she had worn to her recital, meaning she had likely died the very day she disappeared, having been killed by a single gunshot wound to the head. Jonelle Matthews had been murdered in cold blood, and almost immediately upon finding her body, the police would also zero in on their suspect. The man's name was Stephen Pankey, and at the time of Jonelle's disappearance, he had been living in the same general area in Colorado. But by 2019, Stephen had long since fled the area, as after the crime, he would eventually pack up seemingly out of the blue and move to Idaho.
Sorry, I just wanted to let him finish his word. So, he... Presuming, just based on what we know of the case so far, presuming it's this guy, he stood outside of a little girl's home. She was home alone, lured her outside, kidnapped her, took her somewhere, and shot her in the head and buried her. Why? Actually, I know exactly why. And it's absolutely fucking appalling, and I'm not even going to say it. I'm not even going to allude to it because it's absolutely fucking disgusting.
Where when Jonelle's body was discovered, he just so happened to be running for governor.
Ugh, you fuck. Wait. Who did that quote before? It was Steve Payne. Fuck. I hate that. I hate that I endorsed that message and said it was good.
And during his campaign, Pinky had put out a bizarre Facebook post about Jonelle, calling for the Colorado DA to oversee a fresh investigation, as he stated that the local police had wrongly been focused on the theory that Jonelle's disappearance was a child abduction and murder, which was quite convenient, as just a few months after posting this, he would be arrested for the abduction and murder of Jonelle Matthews.
Good.
Police believe that Jonelle had first caught Stephen's eye when he was working as a janitor at the church she attended, with this leading to him stalking her and eventually abducting her on that fateful night, where he threw Jonelle in his car and ultimately ended her life, for no reason other than his sick satisfaction. He then proceeded to bury her in a field 20 miles away, in a spot that he was certain no one would ever find her. Now, the evidence supporting this is mainly circumstantial, but it is incredibly concerning. Just one day after Jonelle's abduction, Pinky decided to take his wife to California in order to celebrate the holidays with his parents, with this trip being completely unplanned, as his wife was only told of it literally the day of. And making things stranger, when they returned home, Stephen's car conveniently caught fire and was burned to a crisp, to which he offered no explanation for. But in response, he would take the car to a local scrapyard where it would be even further destroyed, taking any potential evidence along with it. But while this is all strange enough, police say that the main indicator that Stephen was their man was his clear obsession with Jonelle's case. Shortly after the slaying, Stephen...
Yeah, why would he bring it up 30 years later? For no reason, out of the blue. That's so... What the fuck? And this is what I was talking about with sociopaths and psychopaths. Zero value for human life. Just kill the child for the sake of killing a child. What the fuck is wrong with people?
Even began listening and watching any news reports he could on Jonelle's case, while also having his wife read every single article about the missing girl out loud, to which he would often have her repeat them over and over again. But his obsession didn't stop there, as he would then start frequently calling the police, wanting to talk to them about the case,
I think I understand. He was taking the thrill of them not being able to find... Okay, so have any of you ever played hide and seek with a child and you're speaking aloud trying to find them and then they just start giggling to themselves, or even you yourself, you just start giggling to yourself like, hee hee hee, they're not gonna find me. He was taking his satisfaction from them not finding where she was. So it wasn't about the act of killing her, it was about the inability or the incompetence of the police for not being able to find her. And like, ooh, they're getting close. Oh, they didn't find her. They went in this direction. What a sick fucking twisted... I'm trying to be so careful about my words, because I would say some really heinous shit about this guy.
Going as far as to give them potential leads, as he claimed to be fearful that he was going to be blamed for the crime, despite having seemingly never even met her. And it was during some of these many unusual phone calls that he was said to have given details on her disappearance that were never actually made public. His obsession was entirely uncanny, bringing up her disappearance at random even decades later, with his Facebook post being a perfect example. And as it turns out, one of Stephen's most incriminating statements came as a result of something he mentioned in that infamous message. In it, Stephen says that his son Carl had been murdered in 2008, which is in fact true, as the murder was actually fully solved, with it being confirmed that Stephen had nothing to do with it. But when he was mourning the loss of Carl, something unusual happened. His now ex-wife recalled that following Carl's death, Pinky never once cried, until the day before his memorial service, where she watched him from a distance walk up to their son's urn and begin to sob, eventually blurting out, "I hope God didn't allow this to happen because of Jonelle Matthews."
Oh my god, that is
Despite maintaining his innocence to this day, Pinky was sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole in 2040, his conviction coming 12,634 days after Jonelle Matthews' disappearance, with Pinky's cryptic Facebook post serving as a dark relic of his twisted obsession that would eventually expose him as Jonelle's killer.
That took way too fucking long for them to figure out it was him after all that suspicious shit. So he cried, not because his son died, but because he thought this was retribution for him killing Jonelle. Oh my god, what a disgusting human being. throw him in the pit and destroy the key. No, throw him in the pit and then throw away the pit. The end.
I want to give a massive shout out to my buddy Ryan, aka Nexpo. A lot of you already know this, but Ryan is a really good friend of mine. And I'm super proud of him because he just released his very own podcast called Late Nights with Nexpo. Ryan's all about immersive and atmospheric storytelling, covering dark and bizarre mysteries and rabbit holes, which obviously we all love here. And this podcast really captures his style so well, as it's basically like a Nexpo video just in audio form. And he's releasing episodes every single week, which makes up for his abysmal upload schedule. Okay, I guess I'm not really one to talk. It's really good though, and it's exclusive content on top of what he's already making. And if you like my channel and if you like the Nexpo channel, then you will definitely love this podcast. So check out Late Nights with Nexpo wherever you get your podcast from, and be on the lookout for new episodes every single Wednesday. And as always, thank you so much for watching.
And thank you for making that video, Nick Crowley. Yes, go check out Late Nights with Nexpo, because clearly it's endorsed by Jim Crowley? Nick Crowley, sorry. And also check out Nick Crowley. Absolutely phenomenal video. It boiled my blood for sure, but that was very, very good storytelling and very interesting stuff that I had no idea about. God, that's what it really shows, that there are some terrible human beings out there and a lot of really, really sad stories. Please hug your loved ones. Tell them you love them. But good God, I didn't think that it'd be as disgusting as it was, especially towards the end. So go check out Late Nights with Nexpo, like and subscribe to them. Check out Nick Crowley, like and subscribe. But that was my first reaction. Let me know if you'd like to see any more reactions and what you'd like to see me react to. We want to make this a variety channel here. Tomorrow we're going to be going back to Half-Life, so we'll keep gaming content going, so that's not going anywhere. Don't worry. And if you want to come join the coffee shop, we got a link down in the description to the Discord server. Come join the coffee shop, get a drink, have some nice comfy chats with the rest of us, and get some input on what we do here. Recently I did a poll on the Discord, purely in the Discord, for if we wanted to see Minecraft continue, and the answer was no. But with that, we'll end this reaction here. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please let me know in the comments or click the like button. And if you want to see more of my content, or content I steal from others, I'm totally kidding. If you want to see more of my content, click the subscribe button. I absolutely appreciate it. And I hope to see you tomorrow with Half-Life. See ya.